Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the Python console. It is a fantastic way of getting familiar with how you can interact with Katana through Python code. Now, I'm going to presume you already have some Python coding knowledge. If you don't, I suggest learning the basics before jumping into Python for Katana. There's loads of great free courses online for this. Let's start by opening a Python console. So we're going to click the down arrow, go to Python, and it's going to open up the Python tab. And hit spacebar so we can just focus on this. Now, before we go through the menu options, let's write some code. Of course, we have to start with the classic hello world. So let's do that. Print hello world. Now, how do we run our code? The way we do it is you can either do control and return or hit the enter key on your numpad. Let's give that a go. Ta-da! We've run our code, gone from the input dialog box to the output, and it has our code, and the result is hello world. Fantastic. Now, depending on what version of Katana you're using will depend on what Python version it's using and how it constructs the UI. To find that out, hit help, about Katana, and I'm using Katana 4.5 v3, and it's using Python 2.7 and Qt5 and PyQt5. If you're using Katana 5, you'll be using Python 3. Okay. So let us have something with a bit of a UI. So we're going to use the QtWidgets and create a message box, which is going to give us some information. I'm not going to have a parent widget and have the title be information and the text be hello world, and add an OK button to it. Now, if you hover over the mouse on here, it will give you the information on what is needed for it. It's very handy. And let's run this code. Information, hello world. Okay, great. So what you'll notice is when we run our code, it disappears from this input box. So how can we keep it here? Well, if you select all of your code and run it, it will actually stay. And it also, if you select parts of your code and run it, it will only run that. So let's see that in action. I'm just going to copy these two lines and add it back down here. So if I select all of it and run it, I get both my hello world here and my pop-up. And it stays. And let's just run this first line. Just get hello world. Run the second one. Let's get the pop-up. Nice. Okay, so now let's have a look at the menu options. So if we click script, have source file, and now you can choose a Python file that you want to run. I've got this hello world.py, which is very simple. It's literally just a print that says hello world, I'm running from a file. So let's run that. And you'll see it says it's sourcing that file, and it runs it and says hello world, I'm running from a file. Great. Okay, next we have history, previous, and next. So this allows us to cycle through the code that's already been run. So if we hit history previous, it will now fill it in here, and it's filled it in with the code that we just ran from our file. And we can keep going back and back through our code. Hit next if you want to go forward. And it has the hotkeys of Alt up and down. Okay, next we have edit, and you have clear. That'll clear your output. You have the classics, cut, copy, and paste. Next we have toggle comment. So if we do that, it will comment our code, uncomment whatever lines you've got selected. Next we have format all and format selection. I'll talk about these in a bit because these are determined by your preferences. So let's go to the preferences now. So the first thing you have here is the auto completion behavior. You can have it as IDE or shell. So if it is IDE, and then I type in, for example, NOD, starts this pop up here with the selections you can choose. Go, oh, I want the node graph API, and it fills it in. Okay, Now, if you do the shell option and do the same thing, it doesn't come up here, but I've hit tab, it now fills it in up here instead, so you can see your options. Switch it back to IDE, like that one. Auto indent. So if I were to be running a for loop, so for I in range 0 to 10, and hit enter, it's now knows I'm doing a for loop and automatically indents it. And you'll see that it has this red, which is telling me that I have some white space, which we'll see in the menu in a sec. I'm just going to print I. Okay, so let's just select this bit of code and just run that. Voila. Numbers 0 to 9. Okay, next we have this formatter. So that's what I was talking about with that format option. And you have different formats you can use. You've got YAPF, black, and auto pep8. Now, black is only for Python 3. And you have to have the formatter installed for it to work. So if you click on this question mark, it tells you how you can install it. So it's pip install. If you're using Windows, you can do the Python-m pip install it for your user, for example, and it has each one. So YAPF is the black and auto pep8. Okay, once you've chosen your formatter, you can also say what styles you want to use. So that could just be a name, or it could be going to a file, depending on what formatter you're using. So highlight trailing white space, that I was just talking about before, where it goes red. Next we have this ruler position and show ruler. So if we turn this off, we don't have a ruler. Put it on 79, and then we can, like, you know, change it to 100 if we want. Moves 79. Show help tooltips. So if we turn that on, that's how we get things like if we hover over information, tell us what that does. Okay. And we've also got word wrap. So currently with word wrap off, I make this smaller, move this around, doesn't word wrap. Preferences and turn word wrap on. Now going to wrap it for me as I move this around. Okay. Now, the last thing is using that format option. So if we go to edit and format all, and clean up your code. So actually, if you had any white spaces, for example, it would clean up that as well. Clears out the white spaces and move this down here so I'm not past my ruler, all that kind of good stuff. That's quite handy if you just want to check to make sure your code is good, or clean, shall I say. I'll save the best till last. The really handy little feature I want to show you. I'm just going to move this over here. Make a location create node. And what you can do is drag things over onto the Python console to find out the code. So if I do a shift middle mouse click and drag this node here, it tells me it's node graph API.getNode location create. And that will give us our node. Also do it with tabs. So I can drag this tab over here. And we have the code ui4.app.tabs.findTopTab attributes. And for parameters as well. So let's grab this type parameter here. Drag this over here. Now we've got the code for that. And that is node graph API.getNode location create get parameter type. So that concludes this video on the Python console. I think it's a great way of getting started with Python, and happy coding. Okay.